Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous, the Life of a Clown. Hello, and welcome to Ridiculous Life of a Clown. I'm Gherkin Picklewater, and today I have the very special guest, actor, director, choreographer, professor, Dr. Patty Gallagher.
Hi, nice to see you.
And you, it's wonderful. As we were discussing right before we started, it's been about 15 years since we saw each other.
It's been too long. It's shocking.
Yeah. So what have you been up to for the last 15 years?
Well, as you said, I'm an actor and a professor. So I teach at UC Santa Cruz, and I teach movement for actors. I teach clown. I teach intro to acting. I teach Shakespeare. I'm also an artistic associate of a couple of theaters of Santa Cruz Shakespeare and of the Rogue Theater in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm an honorary member of a theater in Ecuador that I used to work with and train with, Grupo Mala Hierba in Quito. And a longtime member of Teatro de los Cronopios, which is a clown troupe in Quito, Ecuador.
That's amazing. You're just amazing. But I mean, people have been saying for a while, have Patty on the podcast, and I'm glad we finally managed to make it.
I'm so touched. I'm so touched to be included, I have to tell you. And can I call you my beloved Abram, or do I have to say Gherkin?
I will say whatever you like. Okay. You can say whatever you like.
Dear darling Dover, that's what I will say.
Okay. So let's go back to the core of this. What drew you to clown?
I will tell you what drew me to clown. It's a pretty simple answer, and that is a flyer. I was working at the Painted Bride in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I saw a flyer for a World Clown Congress. And I was like, what does even that mean? And it was a movement, I think it was called Movement Theater International. And it just listed an entire week of clown workshops and clown talks and clown performances. And I didn't really even understand the term at the time. I think this was like 1990 or something, maybe 1991. And I was just looking at it. And one of the reasons I was interested in it is what caught my eye was Balinese clowns. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And then I thought, all right, I am taking a week off of work and I am just enrolling. I'm going to do this. This seems fascinating to me. And, you know, as a newcomer, I think I didn't even understand the greats that I was among. I mean, people like Stibor Turba were there, and I wish I had the whole sort of list. But in retrospect, when I would talk to people about the great sort of clown Congress, people were like, oh my God, yeah, 1991, Philly, I was there. And I just didn't even recognize that the people that I would work with later were, it was just like a feast. And so what was important is that moment was it was like a point of entry into clown, but it was also the entire buffet. I mean, we were watching Balinese clowning. We were watching the Tundu clowns from the Pende tribe in Africa. There were commedia things, there were jugglers, there was the European clowning. I think Dimitri was there. I think Slava Pulinin was there. It was just a remarkable gathering of people who were interested in this form. And so going there, my very first look at clown allowed me to see how many different kinds of clowns there are, from circus to theater to more socially based clowning. So every kind of artistic practice that you could include in clowning, and every geography, you know, clowns everywhere. And so, and I was on my way to grad school. I was on my way to get my PhD, which I loved getting. I got a PhD in feminist theory and performance at Madison, and it was so important to me. But it was very strange that this thing that sort of happened just before I went to grad school then became what I actually realized I kind of wanted to do for the rest of my life. But I had this academic interruption, if you will. if that makes sense.
That's amazing. I mean, corollary, but very different. I got my start through local clown conventions,
Amazing.
but they were like the opposite end of the spectrum. They were very narrow, very. This is retirees and ministry clowns, and that was the only thing available. The only thing available in my geography to learn about clown at all.
Sure.
And I went there for 2 or 3 years until they had Jeff Raz up to teach a workshop, and that's like, this is what I was looking for. Why couldn't you give this to me before? And that opened my world and eventually brought me to the Clown Conservatory and meeting you.
Oh, and what a wonderful stamp you put on the conservatory. Your year was a year of such talented people, but I mean, your work was just wholly original and exciting and surprising. Yeah, no, I'm so glad.
Year.
Whatever chance got you to us is thrilling. It's so funny you say that, because I just said, like, it gave me the whole, panoply of what clown could be, and yet I have no contact with or even knowledge of things like clown ministry or clown sort of entertainment. So most of the people who work as clowns, I have no idea about how their lives work, and good for them, but I just don't. I don't have that connection.
It is so fringe to us in the theatrical clown community.
Yeah.
To this whole other world of American or Western clowning that is based around purely children's entertainment, or specifically children's entertainment with a proselytizing aspect to it.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I have to say, it's very funny, because a lot of students, many of whom we have friends we have in common, because they started in my clown class at Santa Cruz, the Pi students, Nick Dixon, Calvin Kaiku. I'm thinking about, just all those beautiful people who went on to do clown at the Circus Center. But a lot of my clown students come in with a sort of a sense of what clown is, and I have to. None of those advanced students that I refer to are like this. But I mean, a lot of people sort of come in like, "What is this?" or they'll come to an audition with like rainbow suspenders, or they'll have like a funny prop or something, and I'll be like, "I am so excited to learn who you are as an idiosyncratic, child of wonder, but I'm not interested in that necessarily." So if I hope that, Ronald Foreman always talked about the distinction between clown and clownee. And it's one of those things that I would have to talk to my own students about, the idea of that, like, clownee is something that is not exactly what sort of our version of clown is or can be. That said, I'm teaching a clown class right now, and I say to my students constantly, I have ideas about what clown, in quotes, is, and I want you to blow them up. I want you to explode them. So when I say things like, the clown is this, or the clown does this, say, hey, lady, we'll tell you what clown is. We'll tell you what clown can be. So.
Well, on that note specifically, let me ask you, what is integral to a clown? What's at the core?
Well, I feel like the clown's humility and compassion, and perhaps above all, like a sense of wonder. I wrote a silly little thing. One of my Ecuadorian friends was like, write a thing about clown. I was like, how can I write about clown? They're like, just try. So I wrote this little tiny sort of primer on clown called A Poetics of Wonder. And I sort of tried for myself to figure out what the hell the basics of clown are. And I feel like what is essential that the clown does is the clown looks at the world through a lens of wonder, and looks at the audience and says, like, look at that. Oh, cool. So it's the combination of like helping us re-see the world and then sharing the experience. But I feel like the clown also has that wonder can be about, isn't the world amazing? But it's also a sense of like, why is the status quo like that? I wonder why things work like that. So in addition to, isn't it beautiful? It's also the sort of innocent questions that we don't ask anymore, like, is that right? Or should that be? Or is that power relationship just? So I feel like the wonder can be both a tool of, focusing on beauty, but it can also be asking hard questions about how the world works and if it is just.
That's really, yes, to everything that you just said. That's really amazing. Is your Poetics of Wonder, is that up somewhere that people can read it?
I could send it to you. I have a website which I should have up to date, and I should put it on there because it really, if it is the place where I sort of explain what it's not just my my poetics of clown, but it's sort of like my ethical and moral stance about performance and being an artist in general, and being the kind of person that I want to be, even when I'm not always that person, if that makes sense. But I really feel like there is something humble about the clown and broken and resilient about the clown that allows us to look at the ingenuousness and the idiocy and the frailty and the magnificence of humanity. So I always try to look at the world through the lens of wonder. So yeah, I don't know. I'll post it somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll send you a link.
Please do. I think the people who listen to this podcast would be very, very interested in getting a chance to read that.
Well, it's very incomplete.
Well, it's a life philosophy, so I guess it would be until you're done writing your life. I definitely tend to look at clown myself as the role of the clown as, and I guess that's kind of what I'm asking is what you think, aside from what we talked about, the core of the clown, what the role of the clown is. I personally see it as looking at clown as well, looking at laughter and the sharing of laughter, much in the way animals as a tribe bare their teeth and bark. We smile and laugh in an effort to drive from the pack that which doesn't fit within the social the ordained social cues that you're supposed to follow. Anything endangering the pack gets driven away, and by being the person who's volunteering to subvert and to outside ourselves, we are bringing the audience together as a group, as a whole, to as with a feeling of strength and safety. I am not the one being laughed at. I'm not the one being driven out. I am safe, and I am protected by the rest of my tribe that surrounds me, and I have a feeling of strength and health because of that. But at the same time, it's also the job of the clown to look at those structures, those things that we're driving them out for, and say, is this valid? The thing that you're laughing at me for, is this valid?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you feel is the role of a clown? What is their job?
I quite love what you're saying. I feel like the clown connects us to other people. If we're just going to talk about like the person who's willing to be laughed at, I remember thinking about just the sort of the rhythm and the structure of circus in general, because although my training started with theatrical clowning, and then I came to the Clown Conservatory, a circus-based model, and then I sort of adapted. So it's I've gone sort of theater, circus, theater, but in the circus, I was trying to think about the audience and their relationship to the circus performers that they would see. And when people watch like the acrobats and the remarkable people who can do such extraordinary things with their bodies, and they say like, oh, look at, if I could only be like that person, that remarkable, virtuosic, beautiful body. And then the clowns are between all that beauty and all that virtuosity. And the clowns embody everything that is frail and beautiful and full of like shame and vulnerability and generosity. And in the audience, instead of being like, oh, I wish I could be that virtuosic acrobat, they're like, oh God, I have been that guy. I am that guy. Oh, I feel for them. I am with them. And that clown is with me, because as you said, she's up there just suffering like a son of a bitch. And that's how I feel. And she survives, and she makes beauty out of it, or she makes something hilarious out of it. And so there's something, just the resilience of the clown, I feel like, is a gift to the world. The clown falls and the clown gets back up. So yeah. I feel like it's that sort of model.
That's beautiful. I want to switch gears a little bit. Tell me about Balinese dance and your interest and background with that.
Okay. Everything I have, I'm sure everything that happens to everybody else is just a matter of chance too. But my Balinese work started from my Javanese work. And my Javanese work started because I was in grad school and I was so sick of theory and writing papers, and I needed to take another class, and there were a choice of classes. And I was like, what class can I take that I don't have to write a paper? And it was like Javanese dance. I was like, I have no idea what that is. I'm in. And I started training in Central Javanese style Jokjanese dance. And I loved it. It was a completely different practice of performance that I had never experienced. And it completely changed who I am as a performer. And it has served me in every single role I've been in for the rest of my career. But, and I always kept saying, like, I'm going to go to Java. I'm going to go to Java. And then I found out that Del Arte, the Del Arte School of Theater, was doing an immersive program in Bali. I was like, that's the island right next door. So I'll go over there, go to Bali, do whatever they do in this whatever thing, Del Arte, whoever they are. And then after that program is over, I'm going to go to Java. Well, I went to Bali and I fell so in love with the physical style, with my teacher, with the village, with the practice, that I never left. And I've never been to Java, which is terrible. I really want to go, but there was something. I studied Jokjanese style, which is really like restrained and graceful and just incredibly. The energy is so even. And what's very funny, Abraham, is this all too long?
No, this is so good. This is so interesting.
Okay. God, I'm so weird.
I'm riveted.
You're so nice. Okay, so what was amazing is that the Javanese style of performance, I have to back up a little, the Javanese style of performance, it really relates, like so many practices around the world, to body types, to types. So I am a sort of a small, round, fire plug of a person. So I was always cast as like the ogre or the monster or whatever. And at first that made sense because I wasn't that good, but then I would take the class semester after semester through grad school. And I sort of went from absolutely terrible to much less terrible to not bad to very proficient to whatever. And then, but I kept being like, really, I'm the bad ogre again. I'm the many-headed monster. I always have to enter on the side of the stage where the bad guys enter. And then one year, I was told that I was going to be the dance captain of the nymphs. And I thought, I have arrived. I have finally overcome my physicality, and I am going to be the head of the dancing nymphs. And they're like, no, you're the dance captain of the nymphs because you're the best, dancer, but you still are going to be the wild boar. And I was like, oh, come on. But so at any rate, I truly was completely besotted with and grateful to my teachers in gamelan and in Jokjanese dance, But then when I went to Bali, I learned some different styles that were related, of course, and the cultural heirs of the Javanese style as the style moved from the origins in India, then to Java, then to Bali, and as it changed cultures, it also, of course, changed in expressive styles. And there was something about the expressive capacity of the choreographic gestures of the Balinese dance that were just a little more staccato and expressive and vibrant and less restrained, that I sort of found my home. And I'm never interested, I worked with a lot of brilliant teachers, and one of the great mask makers of Bali, Ira Bagusanom, R.I.P., said, you don't do this because you're going to become a Balinese dancer. You do this because you want to understand how these principles and how these ideas can translate into the kind of work that you do. So the mask training and the dance training that I did in Bali to have just been so useful and have connected me to ideas about performance that have changed my life. And I'm grateful to all my teachers. But also then I learned about Balinese clowns. And the Balinese, I'm so sorry, you just asked about clowns and I backed all the way.
Please.
So the Balinese clowns show up in a particularly important kind of performance called topeng. And topeng is a masked performance that is a sacred performance. It's not necessarily done for an audience of humans. They show up and, but it's a performance for the gods. It's a performance that must happen on at a particular occasion to sort of seal the ceremony, to seal the rite, to seal the ritual. And the topeng performance can be a solo or it can be a number of people. But what happens is that the performer will go back and forth behind a curtain and come out from behind the curtain with a new mask and be a completely new character, do a particular dance. Hello, it's nice to see you. Sorry, my dogs are interrupting. And then we'll go back out and come back in as a new character. And so one actor has to portray up to, dozens of different characters, from the most sacred, who speak Kawi, a Sanskrit-derived language, to Javanese, to Balinese, to the most sort of basic and popular version of Balinese, and the clown. And the clown is the one who connects to the human audience and is the connection between the audience and the gods. So it is really at the site of the clown's body, and the clown is the point of entry for the human audience to connect with the real audience, the gods. And yeah, go ahead.
No, that's amazing. That's so deeply compelling. I mean, that's something that I would really like to learn more about.
Yeah.
About the idea of the clown being a conduit from the universal to the individual.
Yeah.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change topics again.
I'm God knows that my answers are so dumb and long that got to.
They're brilliant and in depth, and they're exactly what people hear. Acting. You're a renowned Shakespearean actor.
I do a lot of Shakespeare.
Beckett as well.
I do a lot of Beckett.
So can you contrast the two for me? Acting as Shakespearean, acting in Beckett, acting anywhere else?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that is the through line, I feel like every single actor has to find that combination of their toolkit that can apply to whatever form they're in at the time. And I mean, when you talk about, although I do a lot of, like, my clowns these days are text-based clowns, and many of them are Shakespeare clowns. I am absolutely applying all the clown training that I've had that has to do with like immediacy in the moment and invention and in the endowment of props and partnering with the audience. I feel like I really couldn't do the Shakespeare clown work that I'm doing now unless I'd had the specific kind of clown training that I've had that is both improvisational and that is about complicity with the audience. I had it's really funny. I had a Shakespeare director who once said, "I never want to hire anybody, any actors for the rest of my life who aren't trained in clown." And he didn't mean like I only want to do comedy or I only want to do clown performance. He was saying that there is something about clown training that allows the actor to be so sort of creative and open and playing the moment in real time, that there's a kind of immediacy and truth that clowns seem to have. And I thought, look at us, clowns, us being one of the new basics. Now back to the idea of the toolkit. So I feel like I could not have played Winnie in Happy Days, the Beckett performance, unless I'd had my clown training, unless I'd had my Javanese training, unless I'd had my Shakespearean training, unless I had my Balinese eye work. So, I feel like it is the actor's or clown's job to have a kind of sense, to do an archaeology of herself, to do an archaeology of themselves, where you're like, what did I learn from that teacher and how can that apply here? What did I, how did I get to be the actor that I am? How can I look at any role and sort of figure out how to, what's the word? How to like activate particular kinds of training approaches that will allow me to bring out the truth of this character. This is jumping ahead to a question that I think you told me you were going to ask later about dream projects.
Okay.
And I will tell you that this pandemic has been a real heartbreaker for me, because I do a lot of Shakespeare's clowns, and it is in many ways my life project. And this year, I'm going to be all sad. I feel like I want to cry. This year, I lost 3 roles that are like key Shakespeare clown roles that I've wanted to do all my life. I lost Festi in, I was going to play Festi in Twelfth Night. I was going to play Touchstone in As You Like It, and I was going to play Trinculo in The Tempest. And I'm a 57-year-old woman. I'm a woman. And there are theaters that have allowed me to step into these ordinarily male clown roles. And they believed in me. And I've done many, many clown roles, but there are some that I just wanted to get a crack at. And I can't. So I'm sad.
Oh, are those opportunities going to come back around, you think?
Well, the theater company that for which I was going to do Festi and Touchstone is in Arizona, and they have needed to do sort of pandemic-friendly versions of them. I mean, they're just trying to keep their theater open, yeah. And so they've needed to move on, and I have been unable to travel, and so I didn't get to do those. Trinculo may come around again because it's at Santa Cruz Shakespeare, although they didn't do it last year. They changed their programming for this year to do something that's a little more pandemic friendly. I'm excited about the role that I'm going to be playing in that, but Trinculo might come back around.
Well, I definitely hope so.
Although I will say, because I wasn't able to play Trinculo last summer, they did a Zoom version of Richard III, and I was able to play Richard III. And
That's
boy,
amazing.
did I find clown training useful in playing Richard III.
That's wonderful.
Who knew?
Um, so responding to your mention of the actor's toolkit, and I definitely find that, like, I'm not an actor. I want to be. I've always wanted to be since I was a child, but I'm not there yet.
But
Um,
you're a
but as an
performer. So
I'm a
how is that not an
performer,
actor?
yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that I am a performer. I'm a clown. I'm an improviser, so I can do that form of acting. And the clown was so tremendously helpful in becoming an improviser, and allowed me to, like, jump ahead a few years,
Marvelous.
from scratch to being able to perform with a troupe on a regular basis, right off the bat. But I still am working on my own toolkit as an actor. But I got to say, the clown training has been tremendously helpful in pursuing improv, and that's why I'm doing this new thing I told you about, the improvised circus, because I want to marry the two. I want to bring improvisers and clowns together to share those skill sets in a Venn diagram that just holds this one specific show.
I think that is so cool. And I think that is one of the coolest ideas that has come down the pike in a long time.
Well,
Can
thank
I
you.
just briefly
Yeah,
fight with you for a
sure.
minute on this? And I'm going to fight with you using the words of a greater clown than me.
Okay.
And that is Ronlyn Foreman, who says the not all actors are clowns, but all clowns are actors.
Okay.
You know, you are doing all the things that actors do. You're creating character, you're using physicality, you're playing your intentions, you're a storyteller in real time. So
I would counter that by saying you set the bar so high with your students who came out of UC Santa Cruz to the Clown Conservatory, that I've always thought actors have this incredible skill set that I don't have as a clown, because these clowns have such commitment to the moment that I didn't have coming out of your training. So,
well, that's amazing. Yeah, and very kind of you. But I have to say a couple of things. So you've been doing this for 15 years now, at least, right?
I've gotten a little better.
And also, you've gotten a little better. You were good when I met you, you knucklehead. But one of the things that I think is exciting about clown training, I mean, it's easy to sort of see somebody who's ahead of you in their path, on their path, and think like, oh no, I'm so far behind. But you know, I'm a movement professor right now, but I'd never taken a movement class or a dance class until I was 28. You know what I mean? It was just like, I think I just hadn't given myself that. I didn't start clown training, you know. I mean, it's not like an acrobat where sweet, wonderful Mr. Liu Yi will look at a 7-year-old and think, well, we're a little behind schedule. You know what I mean? Like, we can start and we can continue to grow. I'm 57 now, and I'm so grateful that at 28, I didn't say I'm too late to start something. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely. Completely agree. 100%. So let's talk about a little bit about clown outside of text-based roles.
Yeah.
When you have done clown in other forms, what was the process that you go about creating? It doesn't even have to be clown; it could be dance, whatever it is that you pursue. What is your framework for creating a new piece? How do you go about it?
Well, I mean, I'll just talk about how I help my students start, you know, and we start from so many different points of entry, and you can start from anything. You know, I'm trying to think of this little thing I gave them about, you know, your clown is character, and clown is starts from you, and starts with like what you're like and what you like, and what are the voices that guide you in your head, and so I start asking questions to just write down, you know, without stopping for 5 minutes, like who you are. I am, and somebody, was writing, I think this wonderful young new clown, Xander, he wrote, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a grudge keeper. I'm a grudge holder. I'm a this, I'm that. He was just like writing down a million things. And so we started thinking about how to create a clown who had a relationship with the audience that was very much about pleasing people, but he would like have grudges against the lights or something. He would hold grudges against the objects around him. So even just starting from an idea, that simple idea, that pull of opposites, I am like this, but I am also like this, and to play with ideas of status, and then to give people like a simple task to do and think about how that task leads to accidents, which leads to story. And so, there are points of departure that could start anywhere. People often ask me, like, and this goes back a little bit to acting, but I think it applies to clown. Like, do you start from inside out or outside in? Which is to say, do you start with like idea, or do you start with like body and gesture? And my answer is always yes, because like, who cares? Who cares? As long as there's always a feedback loop that's always clarifying, idea suggests something about physicality, and embodying physicality gives you new ideas so as long as you're going back and forth in building something. And I feel like the way to start building a piece is to just generate material, and always go back to like, okay, what was salvageable from that experience? What was joyous? In the middle of thinking you were going to do a piece about status, did you find out that you're actually doing an eccentric dance piece because that your clown has found that it's a very musical clown and responds to sound and movement? Or did you think you were going to do a prop piece and realize that you're doing an audience volunteer connection? The thing that I think is the most important thing to think about is to get away from any idea of being funny. It is not about, it's almost like it's not about you. I go back to this idea of wonder, and the idea of finding something fascinating and sharing that's a great place to start clown work. There's a great actor named Yoshio Ida, and he talks about never mind. I'll tell the story later. It's a good story. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Who are some of the influences, the especially amongst the media, but who are some of the influences that have impacted the performer and the clown that you became, especially any that you feel are underrated and should deserve more attention?
Well, I mean, the media. It's so funny. Our little world is it's not a little world. I mean, because you could talk about clowns, who are film actors or whatever, but I think I always think in terms of circus, and so I'm not quite sure. Tell me more what you mean by media. The media,
music,
just people in the world.
Music, books, film, television, theater, people, acts that you've seen, just anything that has influenced who your performer became.
Well, I feel like the clown I became had less to do with big fancy people that I saw out there in the world, with the possible exception of Bill Irwin, because I feel like not everything I know about clown he taught me, because I've had so many amazing teachers, but I look at pieces like The Regard of Flight, and I think about just looking at it in terms of how to think like a clown, how to think like a theater artist, how to move, how to respect the idiosyncratic nature of the human moving body. So how to work with music, that for sure. But in general, I feel like my heroes are my teachers. Have been my and all of them are underrated, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I wish the whole world could work with the kinds of teachers that I've worked with. And I actually can name a bunch of them.
Please,
if you want me
do.
to
Yes,
name them.
yes.
Okay, wait a minute. I wrote a bunch of things down because I am okay. I have more. And this is in no particular order. Julie Goel, Peggy Ford, Ovner the Eccentric, Jeff Raz, Joan Shirley, Joan Mankin, did I already say Joan Mankin? Ronlyn Foreman, Ricardo Pichetti of Lumi in Brazil, Guido Navarro of Teatro de los Cronopios in Ecuador, John Gilkey, Nyoman Sumandi in Bali, Paoli Lacey, Judy Finelli, Jeff Hoyle, Kutut Kantor, Diane Wozniak, Libby Wetzel, Letitia Bartlett, Derek McGee, Kenny Raskin, Leslie Felbane, Chris Bays, Aaron Posner, Danny Shea, Gerson Guerra, who was my physical theater teacher in Quito. I mean, these are people who, none of them are wildly famous, but they have a kind of commitment and compassion to studying clown, and they blow my mind.
That's amazing. I've had a few of those people, just a smattering of them on the podcast, and it would be my hope to have more.
Yeah. Somebody that I was in a class with.
Oh yeah.
And who was not a teacher of mine, but who is one of the most amazing clowns I know is Hilary Chaplin, who I think is remarkable. And then one of the clowns that was never my teacher, but was in my troupe in Quito, Ecuador. And now, I hope I said Joan Shirley, for God's sake. Please tell me. Oh, thank God. In Quito, Ecuador, I was in this clown troupe with a person that I know is a genius. He's a genius. His name is Carlos Gallegos, and he goes by Cacho Gallegos. And if anybody gets a chance to study with Cacho Gallegos, like just hand over your credit card. Not that he's expensive, but I'm saying, like, sell whatever you would need to do to fly to whatever country to go work with Carlos Gallegos.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely hope that our listeners can reach out and find some of those people to study under.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple more questions before I let you go. You talked about the roles that you didn't get to pursue. Is there something directly upcoming in your future that you would like to talk about? A project coming up soon or in the near future that you would like people to know about?
I have two things that I'm very excited about. One is going to be this summer at Santa Cruz Shakespeare, and it's a 2-person play called The Agitators, and it's about the decades-long friendship between Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass.
Oh, wow.
And it is about friendship and social change and the cost of social change and fighting and losing and compromise and resilience. It's painful and it's funny and it's beautiful, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm so honored to be in it. And then in March of next year, I'm going to be doing a 1-person show that I'm really excited about at the Jewel Theater in Santa Cruz called An Iliad. And it's a 1-person retelling of Homer's The Iliad, about the Trojan War and its repercussions. It was adapted by Lisa Peterson, who is a brilliant director, and it's for one actor and one muse, and that muse is like a musician. So the music is it's an integral part of it. And I'm very excited and nervous about doing that.
That sounds incredible. Yeah, I definitely hope you reach out to like the Clown Conservatory and tell people when it's happening, so we can try and
How is the
there.
Clown Conservatory?
I mean, it's gone through many iterations.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't know if it's up and running or not, but Sarah Moore's the clown in charge.
Marvelous. She's
so
amazing.
Yeah. And I think they probably took a year off for the pandemic, but I'm not positive.
Sure. Yeah.
But they still got an active Facebook group and a listserv, and it's a great way to reach out to people.
Well, I love them, and I have to say that I owe the world to Jeff Raz, because I had just moved back from Ecuador. I was sort of unmoored as an artist, landing in San Jose, and I didn't know where I was, and I didn't know anybody. And I took a workshop from Jeff Raz, and he's like, we're doing this, we're going to do a year-long program. So I was in the first year of the Clown Conservatory, and that really shaped me. And then he was like, stay on as a teacher. And then I feel like I really learned about what clown was by teaching it. So that it was just invaluable.
You're definitely one of the high points of my, no, seriously, of my experience at the Clown Conservatory. I mean, there were many high points, but your classes were definitely one of them. Okay, just a couple more things. We talked about what roles you're coming up. If you could tag 3 other people to be on the podcast after you, who would they be?
Carlos Gallegos, Cacho Gallegos. I'm just thinking, I bet you've talked with all the brilliant people. Have you talked with almost everybody that I listed?
No, only a handful.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who you should talk to. Have you talked to Diane Wozniak?
I've not had Diane on the podcast yet.
I think you should do Cacho Gallegos, Diane Wozniak. Have you talked to Tristan Cunningham yet?
I have.
Yes. Okay. Well, excellent. She's a genius. And you've talked to Calvin Kaiku.
Yep.
Okay. Then what about, I think you should talk to Hillary Chaplin.
Hillary Chaplin. Okay. I might email you just to try and get connection from you on that.
Have you talked to, I mean, I just think of other people who just sort of blow my mind and who I think are hilarious and geniuses. Have you talked to Jeff Seal?
No, I haven't.
I think Jeff Seal is a nut, and I think he is just an original, total genius. Have you talked to all the? Can I keep giving you names?
You can keep giving me names.
Have you talked to all the pie people?
I've had 2 pie clowns. That's the
Which
only
ones?
Kelsey and
okay,
Leah.
I was gonna. Oh my God! Yes, of course. I think you should. Yes, I would say that. I would have said, you should talk to. You should have Tyler and Andrew on. Oh my God. Did I tell you that one of like my crowning achievements, like I could die now moments in my life, like I could die now after watching this. Tyler and Andrew, because Andrew has trained as a minister, as a Presbyterian minister.
I did not know that.
Yes. And he is, it's a different kind of ministry. It's not the sort of like clown ministry in a sense that we know of. But Andrew created a show and a sermon. And maybe he was just saying this to be nice, but he was saying that that my little clown primer, the Poetics of Wonder, had a lot to do with his this performance that he did in a church. And so Tyler and Andrew were I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like you went to church and like the church ritual was like all the same, but every different moment of like the regular church ritual was seen through the lens of clown. And and people went out of their minds for it. And it's different from regular sort of ministry. I don't know how to describe how it's different.
That sounds incredible. I've
It
never heard this
was
before.
so moving and so beautiful, and I really he gave a homily, and I saw a lot of as he told me, that I would see a lot of like direct quotes in there. And it was one of those things where, when you're a teacher, sometimes you think like, well, I hope what I'm saying lands, or I hope it's useful. I hope somebody knows what to make of like what I'm doing. And it was like watching a student take a small seed you've given them and grow it into the most beautiful bouquet of flowers that you never could have done yourself and you never would have imagined. So it was like totally processed through his genius brain, but I saw.
Well, I'm going to double down on my efforts to get him on the podcast because
I
really want to talk about that. Okay, Patty, I think that's about it.
Thank you for letting me talk on and on.
Thank you for being here and talking on and on and on. It's what we live for. So thank you, Patty. You're
amazing, and your work is incredible, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you. All right, I will see you again very soon.
We have to do it more, we can't wait 15 years next time, please.
Yes. Very soon. Bye,
Love
Patty.
you.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. This program, as always, is made possible by your support through our Patreon, which you can find through www.picklewater.com. Theme song by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech Music.